Every day, thousands of hackers try to steal your crypto. But Arculus uses air-gapped technology by forming a protective barrier that insulates you from hackers and secures your crypto. Order yours at getarculus.com.
Hey, this is Mike Evans. Listen to every episode of Schlereth and Evans on demand at 1043thefan.com. Presented by Siltahara Motors, the home of the zero down with Chapter 7 and 13 bankruptcies. Regardless of your financial standing, no one should be without a vehicle. Visit the special financing section at sthmotors.com.
I have Adam Schefter from ESPN on the line. He heard a rumor.
Oh, great. Tell Schefter to stick his rumor up his...
Sunny.
It's time for our NFL Insider from ESPN, presented by Bet Rivers Sportsbook. It is Adam Schefter. Adam, Chad Anderson from Mike Evans today, along with Stink. Thank you for taking the time, as always. Some big moves in the NFC yesterday with Jalen Smith to Green Bay, Stephon Gilmore to Carolina. Do you think either one of these does anything long-term to really move the meter and make it the difference in the long run for the NFC?
Well, good morning, Chad. Good morning, Stink. And I would say that in Carolina, Stephon Gilmore has been a stalwart cornerback. I mean, a great player. And they lost J.C. Horn, their first-round draft pick, needed a replacement to play on one of the league's better defenses. So I do think he's going to help them quite a bit. I mean, he's a ball hawk, and some say he's one of the best cornerbacks in the league. So to me, his addition does help. With Jalen Smith, I think he immediately, whether he liked him in Dallas or didn't like him, he immediately becomes the best linebacker on the Packers roster. Just didn't have a lot of depth and talent there. And so I think he's going to go in there motivated. Plus, again, he's reunited with Matt LaFleur, a guy that he knew well. They were on the Notre Dame staff together. Basically, Matt LaFleur was coaching, Jalen Smith playing, and they spent 2 years together in Notre Dame. And so there's great familiarity there, and I think that there'll be a chip on Jalen Smith's shoulder. So I think he will make a mark there, yeah. So I think both moves help upgrade both teams in their respective divisions.
Yeah, you know, it was really interesting, Adam, because last year calling a Green Bay game, they would play, nickel to base. They'd play dime to base because they were like, well, our linebackers are kind of weak, and bottom line is our best 11, happen to have all DBs on there. But in regards to Dallas, like what happened? Like why did he lose favor, or was it just the fact that Parsons came in and played great, Cox has played really good, Van Der Esch is playing? Is it just a depth thing that they've done a good job there?
Well, I think it's all of that, Stink. And I think when you bring up all those other linebackers, all the depth they've had, those other players playing well, and the fact that he basically was owed, I think it's like $9 million next year that he was playing for. Like, if he got hurt and he's had some injuries and hasn't stayed on the field, Cowboys would be on the hook for that. And I don't think they wanted to be on the hook for that money, any more money than they've already sunk into Jalen Smith. He had 5 years and $50+ million remaining on his contract. They were looking to trade him. They were calling around to other teams for a while. They were willing to pay some of the salary. I don't think with the emergence of all those other guys who are relatively affordable that they wanted to take on any financial risk with Jalen Smith, which is why they decided to move on from him when they did.
It's almost like a whole new world talking about the Cowboys being fiscally responsible, right? We're looking ahead here in Denver to Pittsburgh, obviously, this week, and that means Mike Tomlin. And before we get into the game Stink is going to do, with the Broncos, Aaron Rodgers on Pat McAfee's show, when he just goes over the top with his praise of Mike Tomlin, like he knows what he's doing when he says this, right? I mean, what purpose does it serve when the Packers finally right the ship and have won 3 in a row for him to go out of his way and heap praise on Mike Tomlin now?
Well, Chad, let me ask this question. I didn't hear the interview, and I don't know the context in which it was said. So before I answer, and I have some thoughts there, just give me a little bit more there. What led to that? And what were the gist of Rodgers' comments?
Sure, obviously, and I don't think we have the sound, but I'll paraphrase for you. With Pat McAfee, obviously the Packers just beat the Steelers, and the discussion on that game led to Aaron Rodgers, for the most part, unprompted, saying, I have a lot of respect for Mike Tomlin. I love the way he relates to his team and treats his guys. I respect the organization, and it was kind of an over-the-top praising of Mike Tomlin and the way he goes about his business, which is no doubt deserved. But I'm just kind of wondering at this point in the season with the Packers, having turned things around from their opener to win 3 in a row, what purpose it would serve for him to go out of his way to do that at this point in the season.
Well, I think that Aaron Rodgers is an honest guy, and I think he feels that level of respect for Mike Tomlin. And it sounds like his name came up, and I didn't hear the interview, but it sounds like his name came up, and he wasn't going to hide from the fact that he's got great respect. There was a video clip that was captured on Sunday of those two guys winking at each other on the field. And I said on this program before that as interested as Aaron Rodgers might have been in coming to Denver at some point this summer, I think part of the reason that he ultimately decided to go back is he knew that quarterback landscape would be reset after this year, and he would have more options than just Denver. And so just take a look. Do you think Pittsburgh will be an option for Aaron Rodgers? I'm asking you.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, well, yeah.
Yeah.
It would make a lot of sense. Now, I don't think he's going out of his way to praise him, to grease the skids for him to take a run at me, Mike. I don't think he needs to do anything like that. But I just think that there's a healthy respect. He's an honest guy. Sounds like he was asked about it, and he's not going to hide his feelings and respect for Mike Tomlin when it comes up.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct, and the market will open up because there's a bunch of teams that need quarterbacks without question. Hey, Adam, you've covered this league forever. You understand the concussion protocols, but as well as anybody does. Teddy Bridgewater, coming off that concussion, the steps that he has to take, and what is the likelihood, in your mind, and I'm asking you to speculate that he actually plays on Sunday?
You know what's interesting about that, Snake? I had to come through Denver, which, I stopped literally Tuesday morning for 2 hours. I had 2 hours, and man, I would love to have stayed in Denver longer. But I was on the way back from L.A., had to do an interview in Denver for something that I've been working on for ESPN, and stopped by there. Now, as I was walking out of the interview, I was coming through the Players parking lot to get my taxi back to the airport there. And I saw Teddy Bridgewater and had a chance to talk to him for a couple minutes. It was just a random encounter.
Uh-huh.
And I said to him, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm doing fine, doing well. You going to be able to, oh, yeah, I think I'll be fine. Now, again, I thought about that, and I can't tell you the number of times over the years where a player thought on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, oh, yeah, I'm and then they don't clear through the protocols.
Mm-hmm.
Or they think, I'm not going to be able to play, and then they do. And so Teddy Bridgewater could have said to me, and he implied, yeah, I'm going to be fine. Yeah, it should be all right, not an issue. But it doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't mean anything because you still have to go through the testing. Now, I do find it encouraging that he was out there yesterday because he wouldn't have been if he hadn't passed through certain stages and levels of the protocols. So I think the best thing that we could say about it on Thursday morning is it's trending in a positive direction. But until you get absolute clearance, you just don't know what those things.
All right, Adam. Hey, man, we appreciate you, buddy. Have a great one.
You're doing that game this week, Broncos Steelers?
Yes, I am.
So you must enjoy doing that, right? That must work out well for you.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. The Broncos have been great. The Broncos are great to me. Patrick Smythe and the guys, they always accommodate for me, and I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward. I grew up, Adam, a huge Steeler fan, and
wow.
and so to go back to Pittsburgh and actually to go to the facility and like I will be, and I'm sure they'll have pictures on the walls and all the stuff that they do, but I will really be having to hide my excitement because I still get, like, when I see Franco Harris or I see Mel Blount or John Stallworth or any of those guys, man, I get, like, I literally get nervous still. Because I was such a huge fan as a kid.
You've been to the new stadium, right?
No, I have not been to I haven't been to Heinz Field either.
He hasn't even been to Primanti Brothers, Adam. He hasn't even been there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, Heinz Field is. I like that place a lot. I think it's a great stadium, and I'm sure you've landed in the Pittsburgh airport when you walk out. I always love this. You walk out of the plane, and literally there's two statues side by side as you're about to get onto an escalator to go down to baggage claim and ground transportation. There's two statues. One is of George Washington, and the other is of Franco Harris making the Immaculate Reception.
Yes. Beautiful. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, I mean, that tells you where their priorities, George Washington, one of our founding fathers, first president, and Franco Harris. It's
all about the founding father of the country and the founding father of the Steelers offense. I mean, you can't go wrong.
One last thing before you boom me out of here. Are you doing the Broncos-Raiders game next week as well?
No, my wife and Peggy asked me to get switched over to do that because Mike is getting inducted, but Fox and CBS are switching that game.
Yeah, that was the game, right? Okay.
Right,
yeah, okay.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you, man. Take care, Adam.
Fun in Pittsburgh. Enjoy it, guys.
Yep.
Take care.
Thanks, Adam. Adam Schefter, our NFL insider from ESPN, presented by Bet River Sportsbook.
Hey, it's Mike Evans. Siltahar Motors is the home of Zero Down. Regardless of your credit or financial situation, Siltahar Motors will help you get behind the wheel. People with poor credit or in bankruptcy can qualify for Zero Down and no payments for 45 days and be driving in their new car within hours of stopping by the dealership. Check out any of the cars Siltahar Motors currently has on site at sthmotors.com. Siltahar Motors is conveniently located at Highway 36 in Wadsworth, so regardless of your financial situation, Siltahar Motors will get you the car you deserve at sthmotors.com.
Thanks again to James Merrill and Adam Schefter going back-to-back there. Appreciate it. Flair and Evans on this Thursday morning. Chad Anderson for Mike Evans. Stink. Adam referred to it there, or mentioned it, that he ran into Teddy Bridgewater in a brief stop down at Dove Valley this week where he said, I think I'll be fine, but that doesn't really mean anything with the concussion protocol. But all indications are that it is trending in a positive direction, according to our NFL insider there. The NFL is so complex, intricate. There's so many tiny margins that plays, drives, games are decided on. But when we look at this game on Sunday, and even how Las Vegas looks at this game on Sunday, the Broncos were favored when Teddy Bridgewater was upright and healthy and ready to play, albeit a small favorite. And when he got concussed and Drew Lock played, they became a small underdog. Is it really that simple that if Teddy Bridgewater plays, the Broncos should win, and if Drew Lock plays, they'll probably lose?
I mean, is it that simple? Probably it's probably not that simple, but it is. I mean, it's a huge factor, right? And especially when you come off the bench last week and you have an opportunity to play well, and you miss so many throws. Now, you're still a young quarterback, so that position is really hard to play. And it's really hard, it's just a difficult task to play that position. And there's a lot that's on your plate. And, it's like, it's almost like riding a bike, Chad. When you first started riding a bike as a kid, right, you're trying to figure out your balance. You had to get the pedal set right, to push off. And then when you're turning, you're kind of leaning and you don't have that balance. And sometimes you'll fall as you turn a corner. And then eventually you just get on that thing and you don't ever even think about it. You're just playing. Like, I think Drew Lock is still at the beginning stages of riding the bike. Like, he's still trying to find his balance, and he's still trying to figure out, where all my eligible receivers are and what defense are they playing and where should I attack? Like, which receiver should I go to based upon the defense they're planning? And especially with your receivers, your matchups gone. So it's much easier Like when you have a dude that you know is just gonna eat his guy up off the line of scrimmage right off the bat. So you know no matter what coverage they're in, I'm just gonna go with the best matchup, right? Like there's two trains of thought. And I've talked to a bunch of quarterbacks about this. Train of thought is, hey man, like a lot of guys will say, hey, first and second down, I'm gonna let the scheme that the defense plays dictate where I go with the football. Meaning, hey, listen, if they're in a cover 2, I know I've got that hole on the sideline, what they call the turkey hole. I know I've got that between the safety coming over the top and the corner who's rolled up underneath. So I'm going to throw it right there in the turkey hole, right? And I know that's a weak spot. If they're playing buck cover 2, you know the middle of the football field because you've got 2 wide defenders that got to defend the seams, and that middle of the field defender, that middle linebacker is running down deep down the middle. So that middle is wide open. And so you're attacking scheme on first and second down. When you have a guy that you know matches up against anybody, you've got Devontae Adams in Green Bay, you can just say, hey, forget what defense they're in. I don't care what they're playing. Like that takes a mental pressure off you. I don't care what they're playing. I'm just going to go to Devontae Adams. He's going to make a play for me. Right now, you really don't have that. Is Tim Patrick that guy? Is Cortland Sutton coming off a knee injury that guy? Is Noah Fant that guy? Is Albert O that guy? No. So you always having to go, it's just more mental gymnastics for you. If you're Drew Lock, you're always having to go with where the scheme dictates you go. So it's just more on your plate mentally, I believe, because you don't have Jerry Jeudy just whipping somebody right off the line of scrimmage.
I'm going to follow up on this with you a little bit more coming up at 7:45 on the Drew or Teddy situation and George Payton comments about how they could win with either quarterback. So we're going to get a little bit more into this as the show rolls on. Chad Andrus in for Mike Evans today, along with Stink. Next, we're heading into 4-down territory on the Fan.
Are you ready for some football? This is 4-down territory.
Words cannot say how much I truly love you.
Donkey Kong Sue.
Double team, leaping high, falling hard.
Yo soy fiesta.
On Denver's sports station, 104.3 The Fan. First down.
There's a narrative out there that he's gone down, and I don't see that, and I've been watching this guy a long time. He's still capable of doing everything he's always done. Throws a great deep ball, has good pocket feel. I don't buy into that narrative at all.
A lie detector test determined that was a lie.
Big Fangio had plenty of reaction to his comments after last week's game against the Ravens. He's certainly making sure he's not putting up any bulletin board material for Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers going into Sunday this week. Is he telling the truth, or is he just posturing, Stink?
Well, I think he's posturing. I mean, obviously Ben Roethlisberger is struggling a bit. He does not have. I mean, does he still have pocket presence? Is he still aware? Yeah, but he's not a guy that's going to stand there and have 3 guys draped around him as he's still throwing a football that down the football field. That's not Ben anymore. I mean, you can tell he doesn't want to get hit. And who does? Like, I understand that aspect of it. And then as far as, the ball coming out of his hand, it still looks good. I mean, he still's got, he can still put mustard on it. It still looks legit. He just hasn't been accurate. And I don't know why that is. Like, I don't know what is missing in that offense right now. But there's probably, I could show you in the last couple of weeks, probably 5 touchdown passes. Deep balls to Juju Smith-Schuster. Deep balls to Claypool. Deep balls that are just off the mark. He threw one last week in the first quarter on the first drive that was about a 40-yard, 45-yard touchdown. I believe it was about that distance, and it was just beautifully. It was a gorgeous throw to Deontay Johnson, and for a big-time touchdown. And then he missed 2 deep balls that were touchdowns to both of those balls, if I remember correctly, were to Juju Smith-Schuster, and he missed them both. And I can go back to, the game before that in Cincinnati where he missed 2 deep throws that were touchdowns, that, they were wide open. And so something's amiss there, and I'm not sure. I can't put my finger on it.
Next on 4-down territory.
Second down.
What the running game does for you It brings a physical dimension to the football game. And what the running game does that the passing game does not is the running game forces the defense to play blocks and to tackle. That happens on a run play. You must play blocks and you must tackle. In the passing game, those things don't have to happen. You don't have to play as many blocks, and you may not have to tackle based on incomplete or not. So what the running game does is it really challenges your physicality, and that's why I think the run game is important to a quarterback.
Spoken like a true offensive lineman. Oh, except it's Brandon Staley, a defensive head coach for the Chargers. Mark, do the Broncos and Vic Fangio, can they learn anything? Can they listen to Fangio's old protege and Staley about the run game this week?
Well, I think, I mean, if you don't listen to it, then you're foolish. You know, the whole yards per carry thing bothered me a bit. And I understand, you know, you're basically saying, you know, hey, the game just kind of, it took on its own form and stuff. But you stay committed to it when you were averaging 3 yards a carry in the first 3 games, when you weren't having great yards per carry averages, but you stayed committed to it. You know what I look at more than anything else, and sometimes it's just the way the game unfolds, but attempts. How many attempts do you get? Because attempts to me matter more than the yards per carry. Attempts to me, again, very much like Brandon Staley says, wears a defense out. It makes them do things. You know, you had a tough time protecting. You gave up 5 sacks last week, a bunch of pressures. You got your quarterback knocked out, right? I mean, those are things that happen to you in this game. Do you know how much harder it is to rush the passer when you're consistently defending the run? And you've had to defend the run 3 or 4 times, and all of a sudden the offensive guard up kicks on a 5-step drop, and you have to do what? Defend the run. You've got to stop your pass rush, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, shoot, they're throwing it. And you have to restart it. You've got no chance to legitimately rush the passer. So you take deception out of your offense. You don't let your offensive line be the aggressor in that situation. Like, there are so many building blocks. And this is why I put protection, and this is why I put all that stuff. I put a lot of it on not just the offensive line, but I put a lot of it on the play caller and the way that you operate. And it's just, you know, last week was not good enough. Bottom line, it was bad coaching last week.
Next on 4 Down Territory.
3rd down.
Late fake. Fields sets up deep in the pocket with time. Oh, what a catch! Darnell Mooney went up and got it.
Mark's colleague, Gus Johnson on Fox Sports. Justin Fields named the Bears starter. So Matt Nagy, a whole game and a half later, now says that Justin Fields is the guy when he wasn't ready, you know, about 10 days or so ago, and Andy Dalton was supposed to be the guy when healthy. What changed?
Well, there's tons of pressure, right? And, you know, everybody and their brother's uncle is calling for your job. You know, remember, this is the Matt Nagy who won 12 games with a rookie quarterback in Mitch Trubisky, right? I mean, so listen, one of the things that's changed is Justin Fields, based on the film, was not ready to play. I mean, he's just not. But you're going to play him, right? I mean, that's the game that you play. This is the NFL, and that's what happens when you draft a guy in the first round. So, again, go back to the running game. What changed? What did they do last week? Justin Fields was 11 of 17 for I don't know how many yards, no TDs and 1 pick. And I hear people across the country talking about what a great game Justin Fields had last week. Like, really? That was your great game right there, because he made a couple of throws that were exceptional. But 11 of 17, no touchdowns and a pick. That's a winning formula. That's a great against a junky Lions team, right?
If either Denver quarterback did it, they'd say it was game managing.
Yeah, and it's 209 yards total passing. So there he is. You know what, though? Look at what Matt Nagy did with that offense. You know how many carries they had? You know how many rushing attempts they had? They had 39 carries in that game. 39. So basically, you say, "Hey, man, we're going to change the way we operate our offense, and this is what we're going to do. And this kid's going to be our quarterback, and he's going to learn. You know, there's going to be growing pains, but he's going to learn along the way. and we've got to protect him. And how are we going to do that? We're going to get attempts.
All right, let's go next on 4 down territory.
4th down.
The shotgun snap to Fitzpatrick. Looking to the right, and he puts that ball intercepted by Gilmore as the receiver fell down at midfield. He runs it left sideline 40, and he angles out at the 35.
Patriots radio on the call. Stephon Gilmore, a Patriot no more. Traded to Carolina. What does this say about his time in New England? Or maybe more importantly, Mark, what does it say about Carolina immediately reacting after getting handled a little bit by Dallas?
Yeah, well, they got handled because they couldn't stop the run. But the bottom line is Stephon Gilmore is a great player on the outside. He gives them flexibility with the way they want to run that 3-3-5 defense of Phil Snow. And, you get a lockdown corner. It gives you freedom at the safety position. What do you want to do with those guys? Do you want to blitz those guys? Can we turn? If we get a 3-by-1 formation, we take that backside safety, get them over to the 3 side, and just let Stephon Gilmore lock a wide receiver on the opposite side. So it gives you so many options when you have a real shutdown corner. So it just makes you a better football team. It gives you quote unquote a numbers advantage when you have that guy. And that's why they went in that direction. And it also says about New England, we got a couple of young corners that are actually playing really well. And we're going to stick with what we got.
I like what Carolina's doing. I think they're going to be a problem for quite a while in the NFC. Just my opinion.
You think?
I think so. I think they're trending in the right direction.
I do. Mark that tape, man, and we'll see the next time. We'll see where the Carolina Panthers. Well, I kind of like them too, but I still am a little bit leery. But I kind of like them.
I think they've got the right plan. I just am still concerned about Darnold and turnovers. But I think they do have a plan in place that is feasible to find success. That is 4 down territory. Catch it every morning at 7:30 right here on Schlereth in Evans. Happy Thursday morning to you, Schlereth and Evans. Chad Andrus in for Mike Evans today. Thanks to Evans for letting me sit in the big chair.
Oh, the meatballs.
Oh, man.
Child, please.
I've known that guy for, man, I'm old, Stink. I've known Evans for like 25 years.
Really?
Back in Dallas, I'll tell you how old it is. When I was in college and just out of college and an intern and things like that, one of my first jobs in radio, I used to produce on a long since defunct network for Mike Evans on overnights before he even came to Denver. So
isn't that crazy?
Yeah. We used to sit across from each other and, kick around these same kind of topics, way back
snap.
when.
Right.
Overnight weekends on a network, right?
Pretty gosh darn terrific.
Yeah.
the fun stuff. Man. Yeah. And now he's got a kid in college, right? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I want to get back into Drew or Teddy or Drew. When will we know? What will we know? And we'll do that right at the top of the hour, but we can't completely gloss over last night. And, the Rockies, best player, maybe best player ever, arguably, in Nolan Arenado and their $50 million, lasted all of, exactly 9 innings in the playoffs. Dramatic ending with the Dodgers and Chris Taylor, the 2-run shot in the bottom of the 9th to lead the Dodgers to the 3-1 win in the one-off wild card game last night. It was funny. A lot of times I text with my brothers when we're all watching the same game, and I had one brother text and go, Did Roberts just run himself out of pitchers? And my other brother replies and said, he plans on winning it right here. And then bang, walk-off home run. I'm like, well, I guess he nailed that one right. What happened to your boy Nolan? 0 for 4.
0 for 4. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Listen, it continues, right? He walked into that wild card game with a robust playoff batting average of 194, just short of the Mendoza line. So, listen, you're facing really good pitchers. Scherzer is awesome, even though they ran him up in the count and got him out early. but, it's playoff baseball. And there's something special about the big poppies of the world, right, that just show up to the playoffs and just find a way to produce. I know it's not easy. And, some of the greatest players we've watched, look at the game that Garrett Cole had. Like, he got chased in 2 innings, right? Look at Clayton Kershaw's up until a year ago, his postseason history, right? It hasn't been good. And so, I think still a fairly small sample size in regards to Nolan Arenado, but 0 for 4. I think at some point it's got to get in your head. You got to grip a little bit, don't you? I mean, in that, I think that's what happens to guys, or at least I'm assuming that's what happens to guys. Maybe he's gripping a little bit. I don't know, but certainly hasn't been super productive when it comes to playoff baseball.
Well, when the whole narrative of why what transpired the way it did is because of this desire and will to win. Well, yeah, I mean, wouldn't it only be natural to start gripping a little tight, to start to pucker up a little bit, right? I mean, the whole point, and, the utmost respect, right? There's no way you're ever going to find me saying anything negative about Nolan Arenado, and I think the Rockies fans who did that are insane. But when it's all about winning, and you finally get your chance and you can't deliver, right? Yeah, I mean, at some point you have to kind of, feel a little tight, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know that I think that's just, I think that's human nature to a degree. And the guys, and we always talk about being clutch and this, that, and the other. I don't know that you're ever really clutch as much as you are just calm. Like that situation doesn't, you still get the energy or the excitement of it, right? But it doesn't get you to the point where you're out of your routine, where you get out of sync, so to speak. And, that to me is your ability to perform, in the tough moments, your ability to do your job and to not, get your heart fluttering, to remain calm. I think that's the fascinating part of, quote unquote, being a professional athlete. And I think the great ones have the ability just to, when it gets tough or when it gets pressure filled, to just be like they are every day. Like, it's how the captain, Derek Jeter, just, is going to make a play that is sublime in the most difficult situations. Like I mentioned, Big Papi, hey, here's a most difficult situation. The guy is just absolutely, nails at the dish. And I don't, that's my only explanation for it, right? Some guys can slow down the heart rate and just play it like any other, like a regular season game, like it's not a big deal. I've always said this, I got the pleasure of playing on some really good teams with some really good players. And so I got the pleasure to play in and start 3 Super Bowls. And, one of the things that Super Bowls come up and playoff games come up, and people always ask you, as a member of the media and a guy that's played there before, like, what's the key to being good in this game? And my standard kind of operating answer is, man, the team that plays this like it's any other game, that's the team. Like the team that settles in first, like this is any other game, is usually the team that, to me, is going to win. It's the team, to me, that will settle in and play their best football in critical moments. And obviously when you have that pressure and you feel that pressure, or you put that pressure upon yourself to go out there and perform because of, your contract, or because of, your circumstances, and because you've, quote unquote, forced your way out, or whatever it is, those guys always seem to have a little bit extra pressure, and they don't respond well to it.
I will say this. I've always thought the cliche that the hardest thing to do in sports is hit a baseball. I've always thought that was nonsense. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's much harder to effectively pitch in baseball than it is to hit. But what you're talking about in terms of remaining focused and remaining calm in those big moments, if I lay out all of the sports and all of the positions in sports, you could certainly argue quarterback would be challenging, but I think trying to be a hitter and one that is relied on to drive in runs in that pressure-packed playoff baseball environment, then that would be probably the hardest position to stay zen, right? To play it like it's any other game, right? I think almost any other position in any other sport, it's a little bit easier to ease yourself into that game and get into your routine and your flow like it is normal. But when it is, a 2-out bottom of the ninth situation like Chris Taylor faced last night, I do think that moment is probably more likely to get to the athlete more so than anyone maybe playing any other position.
Yeah, I think it's probably fair. I think it's incredibly, I'm with you on pitching, especially as tight as the strike zone is and as good as the hitters are at differentiating. It's changed a bit because the hitters are just trying to hit home runs. So there's I think it was tougher. There was a day when it was tougher because there was value to the single. There was value to moving runners over. There was value to situational hitting, which has disappeared. So maybe it was a little tougher in the past in that regard. But with that said, man, being in that situation, being in those crunch moments, how do you perform? Like I always thought, you want pressure, 3rd down and 12 off your own goal line, and Warren Sapp's on you, and you got 3-jet turn away, and you're man to man, as a guard, and you want to know what pressure feels like? Because listen, even if I block him, and I'm trying to hold on every play, and I get called for holding in the end zone, that's a safety, and we lose the game. And so, how can you in those situations, how can you be great? How can you be at your best when your best is required in the critical moments? I think it'd be a fascinating case study. And I don't know that there's any, quote unquote right answer, but boy, I tell you what, I completely understand just the angst that you feel in those situations.
I guess those few Rockies fans that were really hard on Nolan and took it hard with the way he departed, I guess they can crow a little bit today. I mean, if you want, he went 0 for 4. Cardinals lost, but the Dodgers won. So are you really happy about that? How about the
by
Giants?
the way, Chad, wait a minute. Everybody loses, right?
Right.
I mean, there's no winner in that scenario when, Nolan played poorly if you were rooting against Nolan at the dish, but bottom line, Dodgers still won. I mean, it just doesn't. There's that's just not. There's nothing good about either of those scenarios.
Well, here's. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do it, Stink. I'm gonna go ahead and let everybody in Denver and everybody in Colorado and pretty much everyone west of the Mississippi hate me today. It's my one day to be here, so I'll take the hate.
Sure.
I don't like the Dodgers, right? I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but I will say this. As a sports enthusiast, as someone who's been in this business and sports media for a long time, I firmly believe if you don't have a team in the mix, if your team is not in it, you should back the Dodgers. And I'll tell you why.
Because this is interesting. I'd like to know. I'm a little bit perplexed right now, but go ahead. Give it to me.
Because anytime a Tampa or some small market, low budget team in any sport makes a run to the championship round and or wins a title, it is a 2 to 5 year excuse window for other owners not to spend money. And that sucks for fans. The Dodgers, as much as we can hate them as Rockies fans here, they home grow their players for the most part. There's a lot of guys on that roster that they drafted, that they developed, and then they supplemented that by paying the big bucks for what they needed. And that's what fans should want from their ownership. And fans should not support small market, cheap, poorly run franchises getting to and winning titles, because that in turn gives an excuse for other owners to try to do it the same way, and it's just going to end up screwing your team. You should support the way the Dodgers operate, even if you don't like the Dodgers. So everybody can hate me for that now.
Yeah, I mean, although, and you're right about the homegrown aspect of the Dodgers. They have a little bit of both, right? They'll do the homegrown aspect of it, but they will also go out and spend money, spend money to get proven guys that are, Max Scherzer is going to probably win another Cy Young, with another team that he is that good, and his numbers are sublime again this year. So, and listen, I'm rooting for the Dodgers mostly because I'm rooting for Scherzer, because he and my son played together, and I know Max.
I like you a lot.
He's a great dude, and he's an awesome player. Obviously, he's just incredible. So, I have that quote unquote rooting interest for him, but that's kind of where I stand on the deal.
Schlereth and Evans on KKFN, KFFN, HD1 Longmont, Denver.
Hey, it's Mike Evans. Siltahar Motors understands sometimes bad things happen to good people. That includes bankruptcy. If that is you, you can still purchase a car at Siltahar with zero money down in almost all cases. This is a program they've been doing for 25 years. The dealership itself is almost 60. Family-owned business that is proud of their reputation and proud to be a huge part of the Broomfield community. If you file bankruptcy, Siltahar Motors can help. Zero down and no payments for 45 days in almost all cases. Contact Team Zero Down at 720-446-9222 or online at sthmotors.com.